Hi guys, I'm Exodia, and today in our video, rather than doing a tutorial, I'd like to talk about two platforms. So if you're unaware, there's another platform just like Roblox on the rise, and it's known as Core. And it has recently been funded by Epic Games. They gave 100 million in funding for Manticore Games to produce Core. And I was kind of wondering, because after seeing a video on TheDevKing, I wanted to know what really would be the benefits of Roblox versus Core and seeing if it even is worth it for Roblox developers to switch to the platform. As I mentioned, this video by TheDevKing was a big inspiration for me making this video because while the title is a bit clickbaity, the video was in a sense sponsored by Core, so really it could be a bit biased, and I'd really like to know the truth behind like really what's going on and if it's really even worth switching. If you want to watch the video itself, I will link that in the description, and I will also be using some of the points mentioned in here in this video. To start off the video, we'll be talking about the pros of Roblox versus Core, and then we'll be talking about the cons of Roblox versus Core. And this is going to be from the perspective of a Roblox developer who is possibly somebody looking to switch over to Core. Maybe they're curious about the platform, and we're just going to talk about the perspective from there, whether like the pros would be if it's better off switching for these reasons, then the cons would be why it's better to stay with Roblox for these reasons. So let's get started with the pros. I think the first pro that we could start off with is that they both have similarly structured API manuals that you can look at for reference. Roblox's has all the objects on the side, and you could even look at all the things inside that and like functions you could use with coding and events and inherited events. And then sometimes they'll even have code examples depending on the topic. So you could basically just go into any of these topics and just instantly look at some coding examples and even look at the API. And then there is also a resources section, so you can actually learn about making stuff and getting started. As well as there's also the dev forum made by the community, which this links you to. You can get a lot of useful help here from other developers on the platform simply by making a post, as long as you are of the role in here, because you start off as a member. While you do need to wait a little bit, about like 4 weeks to get approved to be able to post, it is honestly, as a developer, one of the most helpful things to help you search for work as well as help get feedback and improve yourself. So this is like everything, with the API, how it's structured for Roblox. Let's take a look at Core. As you can see with Core, it's just structured with their API, just like how Roblox's is. You have all the types and everything that's going to be in your game, like vector threes and whatnot, all your objects and like data types. Then you'll have a bunch of all your coding examples showing what they do, showing even how you could use them with coding examples. So the API is really structured the same, and it's easy to learn from. I like this format. It's very nice to look at if you're unsure about a topic, and it can help you honestly learn something. There is also an academy section on Core, which is basically like free lessons. Well, I like how Roblox has, and I believe Roblox has this as well. They have like a section on the website itself where you can even look at like tutorials made by Roblox themselves, and there's even a vast majority of tutorials on YouTube you can look at. However, they even have courses, like bootcamp videos, their API documents, and help, and you could find that all here. So I think, and they even had a forums page. I believe there was a forums page up there, so there's even that. You're basically going to get a lot of help like you do with Roblox. The only thing is that there might not be as many people to get help from because Core's platform is much smaller than Roblox. So that is one thing you want to keep in mind. However, I think a big pro is that you're going to find like a similar amount of resources to learn on both platforms. And while Core does have a fresh, brand new API you'll have to learn, if you're dedicated to the craft and you take the time out to learn, it shouldn't be a problem, as they both use Lua as their base structure for a programming language. So that makes it really friendly to develop on both platforms or to switch from one to another and vice versa. So that'll be it for this section of the pros. Let's move on to the next one. I think another nice thing about Core and Roblox is that they have some pretty easy to learn explorers and like games. Basically, like when you're making a new game in your place, your editor, they're pretty easy to understand. Roblox, you have your standard workspace on the right, your lighting for all that. Your workspace will hold all your objects for your game. Then your lighting will have all your lighting stuff. Replicated storage will have stuff you want to replicate to the game. Server script service holds all your scripts. Server storage can hold some stuff needed on the server. Starter GUIs for your GUI. Starter pack has stuff for player backpacks. Starter player can be custom characters and starting scripts, and even starting character scripts, as well as teams, sound, chat, and other stuff that you can work with. And it's all nicely in your Explorer there with the properties for each thing displayed in that window down below. Also, you have a bunch of other stuff to navigate around Studio and do a bunch of stuff with. It's pretty easy to navigate and learn when you're new to the platform. And it's just like Core. Core has a nice, easy to learn structure as well. So I'll show you that now. So the Core Explorer looks really similar to Roblox, as you have your everything in your hierarchy, and then you have your properties tab, as well as you also have this performance tab you can see with how your specs performances in here. Honestly, what it looks more structured like is comparable more towards Unity. So if you're familiar with that game engine, you might find it a bit easier to learn this. Like your hierarchy is just on the right instead of the left. You have all your content down here. And then you also have what would be the equivalent of the toolbox of here. So you have all your 3D objects that you can put in the game. But yeah, you even have access to like all the documentation, the Discord. They have for Core the forums. You can give some feedback, even hotkeys in the documentation itself. And you can also edit your windows. But it's a really simple It's really simple to navigate. And I think that's something that also makes it a bit easier to get used to, is that it's not the hardest thing. It's not the hardest Explorer to work with. Like you could work with this, you could test it simply at the top, and boom, you're already in it. Then you just press escape, and then you're just back out into the Explorer to edit it, or the editor, I mean. So yeah, that's one thing I also think is a plus of if you were to go to Core, is that it has a really easy to work with editor for your games. And also a really easy way to access them. We could even show that. Back to main menu without saving. So you can see your places are just here. Really simple to understand menu, just like with Roblox Studio. So yeah, that is it for the editor, Explorer, whatever, for Roblox versus Core. They're both pretty simple to work with and get used to. Those two pros that I just discussed were honestly the most glaring things in terms of pros that I wanted to talk about. Really, the main focus of this video is to look at the cons and see, really what makes Roblox a worse platform or what makes Core a worse platform. The pros, I wanted to highlight some benefits of both platforms that would make it easier to switch from one to the other. So that's why we only had 2 points, because that wasn't really the main focus. And also, those were the two biggest pros I wanted to talk about. I didn't really want to talk about much else. So let's get into the cons of Roblox versus Core as development platforms. Now, I think the most glaring con between Roblox and Core would be the pay rates that developers are paid. This is a good post. While it is a bit dated, it's a bit over 2 years old. It does highlight some issues with Roblox's payout system. As stated in this post, even rounded up, developers in Roblox get about 20% profit. And this could have gone up in the last 2 years. I believe TheDevKing mentions in his video that Roblox's rates are closer to 25 or 27%. But as you can see, Roblox's current rates are about 18 to 20% from what Nenen has found. And he goes on to discuss a lot of the hard work that goes on. And he even talks about how Valve gives developers a 70% cut. Epic Games even gives an 88% cut. Whereas Roblox gives such a small cut to their developers. And this will get more glaring pay-wise when we look at core. And Roblox is a big platform, so it can be, especially when you have games like Adopt Me, which are so big and have over 10 billion total visits. It can, and you even have all those games that are very popular. It can get hard to pay all those developers. So that could be, and don't get me wrong, the rates have gotten much better in recent years. However, it could just be hard to pay like high of rates as say core does, 50%, which we'll get into in a second. But you know, Roblox does give a little bit low rates. However, it is a large platform. I will cut them slack there, but it is big feedback by developers of the platform that they would like fairer rates of pay for their work. Moving on to core's rate of pay. As you'll see right here, it says they have a revenue share of 50%. That means your profits are going to be 50%. And there are some things that you need to abide by when you're developing on this platform. Like, for example, I believe your account needs to be 30 days old to be eligible for monetization. But yeah, you get literally roughly double, maybe even a bit more revenue share in Roblox. However, one thing to note is that if you look at the games page, like you won't see a lot of like plays, like 186,000, 755,000 total, 814,000 total. Island Survival, which is currently the most popular game on Core's platform, only has, as you can see, 1.15 million total plays on the game. So as you'll see, it could be a bit harder to find success on this platform compared to Roblox, because you could see Roblox games in their first year of life getting millions of plays depending on what the game is about, whereas in the total lifespan in this game, which is made 12, 14, 20, so it's about 8 months old, and it only has 1 million plays, whereas in that same amount of time you could see Roblox games getting several million plays, and thus you could see a bit more return on your effort with the amount of money you're making off your game. So it is something to think about. While Core gives much more with their revenue share with their pay rates, you got to keep in mind the size of the platform is much smaller. So they're unless like the platform over time grows and they maintain these rates, I just don't think personally it could be something maintainable. If you have a bunch of developers making extremely successful games on this platform. However, what do I know? But I just think that's something to keep in mind. Like, sure, the revenue share is 50%, but the platform is relatively new, so you might not see the same player count that you'd expect to get on a good, successful game as on Roblox. I think another big thing to mention is the Toolbox. Now, on Roblox, well, yes, you could open up the Toolbox and just start spitting free objects into your game mindlessly and just making a game with that and hoping it'll work. Unfortunately, Roblox's moderation isn't the best, and they're not really going to regulate things, and so there could be a lot of stuff in your game that's going to give a virus if you just take it directly from the Toolbox, so that's why a lot of developers are highly against it, and they say to make your own models, really. So that's why even I picked up some simple 3D modeling for my games, was so I could avoid having the obstacle of virus scripts getting injected into your game without knowing. Like, for example, if you want to search for a tree, well, that's a bad example, but like sometimes you could see if you were to search something specific, you'll get like a bunch of those spam results, which is, it has the name like 500 times. Like, don't put those into your game. Those are going to give you a virus. In fact, a big way to check is like, you always want to, like, say you insert this model into your game. Like, yeah, it's a nice treehouse that somebody made and they're allowing you to use. You're going to want to scan it all. Like, see, like, get rid of any scripts that you find inside of this model. In fact, one way that you could do this is go in the command bar and do for I item in pairs workspace dot and your model name colon get children do if item colon find first child, or if item colon find first child of class script, then then item dot parent equals workspace, and boom. And you'll see any scripts. I believe that goes inside. Yeah, I think we just removed the scripts that were in there. And even then, no developer would recommend you doing this, because honestly, if you're using free models in your game, that kind of reflects lower effort. A lot of the higher effort games are going to have models made by their own modelers in 3D, and like a 3D modeling software like Blender. So that's a skill that you're going to need to have on your team or as an individual making your own game, as it's generally frowned upon to use free models. Now, on the other hand, Core has a big asset library that you can pull stuff from that people have made that you can use. Like here, for example, you have whatever this is that you could use in your game. However, due to how new the platform is, oftentimes, and I haven't played much on Core, so I could be wrong about this, but there could be, most of the games probably are going to be using these assets, because the beauty of this platform is that you can just plug and play. You could put whatever you want from these objects made by the community. You can put any of these into your game, and honestly, you could make a whole game without having any knowledge of like scripting or even modeling. However, the problem though is that it's not going to reflect a high quality game, and you're going to want to be able to 3D model. And yeah, also it's a lot of stuff from Unreal Engine. So you have this bush from Fortnite. You'll see it's some stuff that Unreal Engine, because this is in Unreal Engine 4 or 5. It's in Unreal Engine. I know that for a fact. It's a great free asset library. However, it's just, if you're going to be using free assets, just remember it could reflect a lower quality game. And most games in Core probably are using these free assets. So if you want to set yourself apart from the crowd, you should be using a 3D modeling software. To my knowledge, games might not be doing that as much due to how new the platform is. However, I could be wrong. I have more experience playing games on Roblox. So, but none of these assets that you insert are going to put your game at risk of getting a virus of any sort, though. So that is at least one bonus. So another, I'd argue, con of Roblox versus Core and Roblox's behalf is their templates, honestly. A lot of these templates have not been updated in years. Like you have your obby, which is pretty barren. Like a lot of these are just very barren. They're just basically like templates to help you get started. And yeah, you have the Mansion of Wonder and Move It Simulator, which were added in recent times. But I don't really think they could be better. Like some of these could be more up to date. Whereas on Core, you'll find there to be a lot better of a framework that you could build off of. So like I said with Core, there's even much more frameworks that you can, and there are like templates that you can look at. And they're going to be much better. Like let's look at the Dungeon Crawler third person, and we'll just call this my new project. We'll create it. And then they literally are like just, it's all set up for you, and it just basically sets it up so you can make it really easily. Whereas Roblox just like sets up a place and you kind of are on your own to build more from it. And I do like this approach because like it's better. Like these frameworks can help you get a start to your game, And I think it's really nice to work with. So you have all these assets, like you can build a castle with all this stuff. And they even give you like some room structures, and it's up to you to texture them. Of course, they're not going to do all that for you. But I do think that is an upper leg that Core does have, is that they have better templates that you can work with and make it easier to get a jump start to your game idea. Maybe you don't know exactly what you want, but they even have like the GUIs set up for you and everything. So yeah, and also I think, I don't know exactly if they do even have scripts in here. Like they have it set up like, but of course you're going to want to work on this before just simply publishing it. You can't just like put in no effort. You've got to actually put in effort, just like with Roblox. So yeah, I think that's personally something that this platform could also have an upper leg on with their templates starting out. Like Roblox definitely needs to update theirs, as some of them haven't in years, and they're pretty outdated at this point. I think the final con that we're going to look at is the platform, like the audience reach that we get on Roblox versus Core, and this is going to be heavily in Roblox's favor. Most of these games you're going to see on this Discover page are going to be PC, Xbox, and mobile cross-compatible. So that means you could be playing Roblox with your friends on Xbox, cross-platform with either PC or mobile players. And yeah, that does sacrifice some performance, as Roblox has made a lot of optimizations to hold all platforms, but it honestly does not sacrifice in games. Like games, yeah, some will be structured better for PC, as PC will generally be stronger than your consoles playing on Roblox or your phones. However, there are developers that also work on making optimizations to allow for all three platforms to play them. Like Adopt Me has great, phenomenal cross-platform compatibility. You know, all three platforms can play the game just fine and do everything just fine. And there are plenty more games on this platform that can be played on all three platforms. And even most of your demographic on Roblox is going to be mobile. Like I believe in recent years, it's been shared that like 50% of the players on Roblox's platform come from mobile. So there's like a big, large demographics that you can capitalize off of on here. So yeah, I think that's one thing that makes Roblox a lot more worth it, because you have so much more reach, and you could even make games just to play with your friends, honestly. So if your friends, if you have a PC and your friends only have an Xbox or a phone, you can make a game that you three could play, or just make a game that's compatible for all platforms for the fun of it. On the other hand, Core, you'll find, is only on PC. So like all these games are only filled with people on a computer playing or a laptop. And I think that takes a big hit to like the audience and the potential revenue you can get, because you're not capitalizing off of mobile and consoles. And I haven't done research on it, so I'm not sure if Core is planning on implementing this sometime in the future. However, at the moment, the platform is currently just PC only. Overall, why I made this video was to not exactly give a biased look at either of the platforms, Roblox or Core. Well, personally, I will admit I am biased to Roblox. Well, and that could be in part due to I've been on this platform since as early as like 2013, if I can recall. Core, I do see promise in the platform. However, right now, with how Roblox is doing, the only thing I can complain about is moderation on the platform. Otherwise, I don't see a reason to switch over. I will monitor Core's progress, and maybe I'll even make a follow-up video to this. However, at the moment, from my standpoint, I'm staying on Roblox as it's a platform that I'm comfortable developing on. However, I made this video to bring up some points and some things to look at, and just take a peek at what Core has to offer in some cases. I know pay would be a big incentive to switch. However, I think I'm gonna wait to see how the platform grows, and like maybe the next 6 months and to a year. Now, I didn't make this video to sway anyone's decision. I made this video to give you some more information that you may not have had, to help you make your own decision on it. If you want to switch to Core, go right ahead. If you don't know much about Roblox and you're a Core developer and are thinking about switching to Roblox, go straight ahead. There are resources to get started for both that are honestly, from what I could see, pretty good to learn from. And there's, I'm sure, vast amounts of tutorials on YouTube to help you get started on both. However, that's going to be it for this video. It was a bit long, but I wanted to do a kind of thorough overview of a few points for pros and cons, just to see, you know, what's some negatives of Roblox versus Core and what's some negatives of Core versus Roblox, you know. So yeah, that'll be it for this video. So yeah, see you.